Document. Part 1. The alien fleet arrived without warning. It wasn't a slow descent or a cautious approach. One moment, the sky was clear and calm, and the next, massive ships blocked out the sun. They hovered over cities, oceans, and deserts, their metallic surfaces glinting like polished steel. People on Earth stared upward, their faces filled with awe and confusion. No one knew what these ships were, where they had come from, or why they were here. Commander Kyle stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring at the monitors displaying data about the planet below. His second-in-command, Lyra, moved briskly between crew members, ensuring everyone stayed focused. The mission was simple: extract resources from this uninhabited world to save their dying homeworld. At least that's what they had been told. The planet appeared barren when scanned from afar. No signs of advanced life, no civilizations, nothing worth worrying about. But as Kale watched the live footage streaming in, something didn't feel right. On Earth, chaos erupted almost instantly. In a quiet suburban neighborhood, Daniel Carter stepped outside his house after hearing strange noises. The air seemed charged, electric, and the usual hum of daily life was gone. Car alarms blared down the street, dogs barked wildly, and phones had stopped working. His wife, Laura, came out holding their young daughter, Emma, close to her chest. "What's going on?" she asked, her voice trembling. Daniel shook his head. "I don't know." He pointed toward the sky. A massive ship loomed above them, its shadow stretching across rooftops and streets. It looked like a giant insect, with jagged edges and glowing blue lights pulsing along its surface. Other smaller ships darted around it, scanning the area. Then, without any warning, beams of energy shot downward, striking the ground with incredible force. The earth trembled beneath their feet, and sparks flew as chunks of soil and rock were lifted into the air. "What are they doing?" Laura whispered, clutching Emma tighter. Her wide eyes darted between the ship and the destruction unfolding around them. Neighbors ran out of their homes, shouting and pointing. Some tried to flee in cars, only for their vehicles to sputter and die as if drained of power. Others simply stood frozen, too shocked to move. Far away in Washington, D.C., military advisor Ryan Mitchell rushed into the Oval Office. President Adams sat behind his desk, surrounded by advisors who were frantically trying to make sense of the situation. Maps and satellite images covered every available surface, showing the locations of the alien ships scattered across the globe. "Sir," Ryan began, "we've confirmed multiple landing sites. They're using some kind of energy beam to extract materials directly from the ground." President Adams leaned forward, his face pale but determined. "Do we know anything about them? Are they hostile?" Ryan hesitated. "Not yet. We haven't detected any weapons aimed at populated areas, but the damage they're causing is catastrophic. Entire neighborhoods are being destroyed. And, sir," he paused, choosing his words carefully, "they seem completely unaware of us." Back on the alien mothership, Kale frowned as he studied the incoming reports. The extraction process was proceeding smoothly, but there was something odd about the scans. Small humanoid figures kept appearing on the monitors, moving erratically near the extraction zones. At first, he dismissed them as animals or glitches in the system. But then one of his scouts transmitted clearer footage. The figures weren't animals. They were intelligent beings. Beings with 2 legs, 2 arms, and faces that suggested awareness. "Lyra," Kale called sharply. She hurried over, her antennae twitching with concern. "Look at this." He gestured to the monitor. The footage showed humans running for cover as the energy beams tore through their surroundings. Some carried children, others dragged belongings, but all of them shared the same expression of terror. "This can't be right," Lyra said, her voice low. "We were told this planet was uninhabited." Kyle clenched his jaw. Someone made a mistake or lied. He turned to address the crew. "Cease all extraction operations immediately. I want a full analysis of those creatures, their behavior, their technology, everything. Find out who they are and how long they've been here." As the order spread throughout the fleet, the energy beams powering the extraction devices flickered and died. On Earth, The sudden silence was almost eerie. Daniel and Laura stood motionless, watching as the alien ships remained suspended in the air. For a moment, it seemed like the nightmare might end. But deep down, they both knew it was only the beginning. In the following hours, the aliens began deploying drones to gather more information. Sleek, insect-like machines buzzed through the skies, capturing images and collecting samples. Back in the suburbs, Daniel noticed one of the drones hovering near his house. Its lenses glowed red as it scanned the area. He instinctively pulled Laura and Emma back inside, slamming the door shut behind them. "Stay away from the windows," he instructed, though he wasn't sure why. Something about those glowing red eyes felt wrong. Meanwhile, Kyle wrestled with guilt and uncertainty. He had always believed in the righteousness of their mission. Their homeworld was dying, its resources depleted beyond recovery. Without intervention, billions would perish. But now, faced with evidence of another intelligent species, he couldn't ignore the moral implications. Had they just attacked an innocent civilization? Could they undo the harm already done? Lyra approached him cautiously. "Commander, what do we do now? If we leave, we'll have gained nothing. If we stay, we risk provoking retaliation." Kyle stared at the image of a human family on the monitor, a father shielding his child as debris rained down around them. "We find a way to fix this," he said finally. "We owe them that much." Unbeknownst to either side, this decision would set off a chain of events that neither could have predicted. Humanity and the alien fleet were about to collide in ways no one could have imagined. And as night fell over the ruined landscape of Earth, the true challenge lay not in survival, but in understanding. End of document. Document. Part 2. The world was in chaos. News of the alien invasion spread like wildfire, fueled by terrified eyewitness accounts and shaky videos uploaded to social media. Governments scrambled to respond, but no one knew what to do. Aliens had stopped their destructive extraction process, but their ships still loomed ominously in the sky, casting long shadows over cities and towns. People huddled indoors, glued to their televisions and radios, waiting for answers that never came. In Washington, D.C., President Adams convened an emergency meeting with his top advisors. Military personnel, scientists, and political leaders crowded into the Situation Room, their faces etched with tension. Maps showed the locations of the alien ships, dozens of them scattered across the globe. "We need a plan," President Adams said firmly. "If we attack without understanding their intentions, we risk escalating this into a full-scale war. But if we sit back and do nothing, they might resume their assault." Ryan Mitchell, the military advisor, stepped forward. "Sir, I recommend sending a delegation to make contact. We can't fight what we don't understand. If these aliens are intelligent, and it seems they are, then diplomacy might be our best option." Dr. Emily Ross, a linguist and expert in cross-cultural communication, nodded in agreement. "I've studied first contact scenarios my entire career. This isn't just about talking to them. It's about showing we're willing to listen. If we approach them carefully, we might be able to establish trust." President Adams turned to Captain Lucas Hayes, a decorated soldier known for his calm demeanor under pressure. "Captain, I want you to lead this mission. Take Dr. Ross with you. Your job is to find out why they're here and whether they mean us harm." Hayes straightened, his expression unreadable. "Understood, sir." Meanwhile, aboard the alien mothership, Commander Kale struggled to maintain control. His decision to halt the extraction process had angered some members of his crew, particularly General Vren, a gruff and aggressive officer who believed mercy was a weakness. "You're letting guilt cloud your judgment," Vren growled during a heated argument on the bridge. "Our people are dying. Every second we waste debating ethics is another step closer to extinction." Kale met Vren's glare with steely resolve. "And every action we take must reflect the values we claim to uphold. If we destroy this species for the sake of survival, what does that make us? no better than animals. Lyra intervened before the argument could escalate further. Commander, perhaps there's a middle ground. Let's focus on gathering more information. If these humans pose no threat, then maybe coexistence is possible. If they do, we'll deal with it accordingly. Kyle nodded. Agreed. Deploy additional scouts to observe their behavior and prepare a message. We need to signal our intent to communicate. Hours later, the human delegation prepared to leave. Dr. Ross packed a tablet loaded with images, symbols, and basic phrases designed to facilitate communication. Captain Hayes double-checked the equipment stored in the captured alien drone they would use to reach the mothership. The device hummed softly as it powered up, its sleek design unlike anything humanity had ever created. As they approached the massive alien vessel, Hayes felt a mix of awe and unease. The ship dwarfed everything around it, its surface shimmering, like liquid metal. A hatch opened silently, allowing them entry. Inside, the air was cool and smelled faintly metallic. The walls pulsed with soft light, giving the impression of being alive. They were escorted to a large chamber where Kale awaited them. He stood tall, his insect-like body both intimidating and fascinating. Behind him, Lyra watched silently, her antennae twitching slightly. The humans hesitated for a moment before stepping forward. Dr. Ross activated her tablet, displaying a series of simple symbols meant to convey peace and curiosity. Kale tilted his head, studying the images. Then, to everyone's surprise, he raised one of his clawed hands and mimicked the gestures shown on the screen. It was crude but unmistakable, an attempt to communicate. Dr. Ross smiled despite herself. "This is good," she whispered to Fring. "Hayes, very good." Over the next hour, progress was slow but steady. Using a combination of gestures, drawings, and trial and error, the two groups began to exchange basic information. Kyle learned that Earth was home to billions of humans, far more than he had anticipated. In turn, he shared fragments of his own story, their dying homeworld, their desperate search for resources, and their shock at discovering intelligent life on this planet. But not all questions could be answered so easily. When Dr. Ross asked why the aliens had attacked without warning, Kyle's response was vague. Through gestures, he indicated misunderstanding, a failure to recognize humanity's presence until it was too late. Whether this explanation was genuine or an attempt to deflect blame remained unclear. Back on Earth, reactions to the attempted negotiation were mixed. Some saw hope in the possibility of peaceful coexistence. Others viewed it as a distraction, a ploy to buy time while the aliens plotted their next move. Protests erupted worldwide, with crowds chanting slogans ranging from "Peace Now" to "Defend Earth." Daniel Carter watched the news unfold on his living room TV, torn between optimism and skepticism. Laura sat beside him, holding Emma close. "Do you think they're telling the truth?" she asked quietly. Daniel sighed. "I don't know. Maybe. But even if they are, that doesn't change what they've already done." Nearby, the injured alien Daniel had been caring for, whom he had nicknamed Zix, rested in the basement. Its injuries seemed less severe now thanks to the makeshift care Daniel provided. Though Zix couldn't speak, its large, expressive eyes conveyed gratitude. Daniel often wondered what it thought of him, of humanity. Was it afraid, curious, or simply biding its time? As night fell, President Adams addressed the nation. Standing behind a podium flanked by American flags, he spoke in measured tones. "We have taken the first steps toward understanding the beings who have come to our planet. While much remains uncertain, we must remain united. Fear and division will only weaken us. Together, we will face whatever comes next." His words offered little comfort to those still reeling from the destruction. Across the globe, families mourned lost loved ones and homes reduced to rubble. Yet amidst the despair, a fragile thread of hope persisted. Perhaps, just perhaps, humanity and the aliens could find common ground. On the alien mothership, Kyle faced mounting resistance from his own crew. General Vren openly criticized his leadership, accusing him of endangering their mission. "You're wasting time with these primitives," Vren spat. "While you play diplomat, our people suffer." Kyle's response was calm but firm. "Our survival depends not on brute force but on finding solutions that benefit both sides. If you cannot see that, then you are part of the problem." The tension aboard the ship mirrored the uncertainty on Earth. Neither side fully trusted the other, yet both recognized the stakes. For humanity, it was a matter of survival. For the aliens, it was redemption. For themselves and their homeworld. As dawn broke over the horizon, casting golden light across the scarred landscape of Earth, the stage was set for a delicate dance of diplomacy and distrust. The question lingered in the minds of all involved. Could two vastly different species overcome their fears and misunderstandings? Or would their differences prove insurmountable? End of document. Document. Part 3. The days that followed were tense and uncertain. The attempted negotiation between humans and aliens had sparked a mix of hope and fear across the globe. While some believed peace was possible, others saw it as a dangerous gamble. Governments worked tirelessly to prepare for any outcome, fortifying cities and stockpiling weapons. Meanwhile, ordinary people struggled to adapt to the new reality of alien ships hovering above their heads. In Washington, D.C., President Adams held daily briefings with his advisors. Dr. Emily Ross and Captain Lucas Hayes reported on their interactions with Commander Cale and his crew. They seemed sincere in their desire to avoid further conflict, Dr. Ross explained during one meeting. But there's still a lot we don't know about them, or their intentions. Captain Hayes nodded. Their technology is far beyond ours. If they wanted to wipe us out, they could have done it already. Instead, they've shown restraint. Ryan Mitchell, the military advisor, frowned. Restraint doesn't mean trust. We need to stay vigilant. What happens if their leadership changes? Or if factions within their ranks decide to act on their own? President Adams leaned back in his chair, rubbing his temples. We can't afford to let our guard down. At the same time, we can't abandon diplomacy. For now, we keep talking, but we also prepare for the worst. As discussions continued in the halls of power, life on the ground remained chaotic. In Daniel Carter's suburban neighborhood, the presence of the alien ships cast a long shadow over daily routines. Stores were either closed or stripped bare by panicked shoppers. Streets once filled with children playing were now eerily quiet. Laura Carter spent most of her time indoors, keeping Emma close while Daniel ventured outside to check on neighbors and gather supplies. One evening, as Daniel returned home from a quick trip to the store, he noticed something unusual near the edge of the woods behind their house. A faint glow pulsed among the trees, almost like fireflies, but steadier and more deliberate. Curious and slightly apprehensive, he grabbed a flashlight and went to investigate. Pushing through dense underbrush, he found Zix, the injured alien he had been caring for, sitting upright against a tree trunk. Zix's injuries were healing, though its movements were still slow and cautious. It looked up at Daniel with large, luminous eyes that seemed to convey both gratitude and sadness. Daniel knelt beside it, offering a bottle of water. "You shouldn't be out here," he said softly. "It's not safe." Zix made a soft clicking sound, tilting its head as if trying to understand. Though it couldn't speak, Daniel felt a strange connection to the creature. It wasn't just an alien, it was a being struggling to survive, much like everyone else on Earth. Back aboard the Tau, alien mothership, tension simmered beneath the surface. Commander Cale faced growing opposition from General Vren and his followers, who viewed diplomacy as a waste of time. "These humans are weak," Vren argued during a heated meeting. "If we strike now, we can take what we need and leave before they recover." Kyle's voice was firm but calm. "And then what? Destroy another species for our survival? How long until we find ourselves facing the same choice again? This isn't just about resources, it's about honor." Lyra stood nearby, her antennae twitching nervously. She respected Cale's ideals but worried about the practical consequences. "Commander, even if you're right, not everyone shares your vision. If we don't act soon, Vren might try to take matters into his own hands." Kyle knew she was right. He couldn't ignore the growing unrest among his crew, yet he refused to abandon his principles. "We'll proceed as planned," he said finally. "Continue gathering information about the humans, and monitor Vren closely. I won't let him jeopardize everything we've worked for." Meanwhile, Dr. Ross and Captain Hayes prepared for another meeting with the aliens. This time, they brought additional tools to aid communication, a portable device capable of translating basic phrases, and a series of visual aids designed to explain human culture and values. As they entered the mothership, they were greeted by Kale and Lyra, who appeared equally determined to make progress. The session began with cautious exchanges. Dr. Ross used the translation device to ask about the aliens' homeworld, hoping to build rapport by showing interest in their struggles. Kyle responded by describing a planet ravaged by environmental collapse, rivers dried up, forests reduced to ash, and skies choked with toxic clouds. His words carried a weight of sorrow that transcended language barriers. Captain Hayes listened intently, noting how Kale's tone softened when speaking of his people. "They're desperate," Hayes whispered to Dr. Ross. "But desperation doesn't excuse destruction." Dr. Ross nodded. "No, it doesn't, but it does explain why they're here." As the discussion deepened, Kale revealed a startling truth. His fleet wasn't the only one searching for resources. Other groups operating independently had similar missions. Some might view humanity as expendable. "If word spreads that Earth is undefended," Kale warned, "it could attract unwanted attention." This revelation sent a chill through the human delegation. They realized that even if they reached an agreement with Kale's group, others might not honor it. The stakes were higher than they had imagined. Back on Earth, protests grew louder. In major cities, crowds gathered to demand action. Some called for peace, urging leaders to trust the aliens' promises. Others demanded retaliation, convinced that diplomacy would only delay the inevitable. Amidst the turmoil, Daniel Carter wrestled with his own emotions. Helping Zix had given him a glimpse into the aliens' plight, but he couldn't forget the devastation they had caused. One night, as he sat in his living room watching news reports, Laura spoke up. "What if they're lying? What if all this talk is just a trick to buy time?" Daniel sighed. "I don't think Zix is lying. It's scared, just like we are. But I can't say for sure about the rest of them." Laura hugged Emma tighter. "Then we need to be ready for anything." Unbeknownst to them, events were unfolding that would test their resolve. On the alien mothership, General Vren grew increasingly impatient. Convinced that Kale's approach was doomed to fail, he began rallying support for a coup. His plan was simple: seize control of the fleet and resume resource extraction, regardless of the cost to humanity. Kyle sensed the danger but chose to focus on maintaining stability. He ordered increased surveillance of key areas and instructed Lyra to keep tabs on Vren's activities. Still, doubts lingered in his mind. Could he truly prevent a mutiny? And if he failed, what would become of Earth? As dawn broke over the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, the fragile thread of cooperation between humans and aliens hung by a thread. Both sides knew that time was running out. Decisions would soon need to be made. Choices that would shape the fate of two worlds. On Earth, people braced themselves for whatever came next. In the quiet moments between chaos, Daniel thought about Zix and wondered if understanding could ever bridge the gap between species. For now, the answer remained elusive, hidden somewhere in the vast unknown. End of document. Document. Part 4. The fragile peace between humans and aliens began to unravel. Misunderstandings multiplied as rogue alien units, acting independently of Commander Kale's orders, resumed their resource extraction operations in remote areas. These actions sparked outrage among the human population. Videos surfaced online showing villages destroyed and fields reduced to barren wastelands. The images reignited fear and anger, fueling calls for retaliation. In Washington, D.C., President Adams faced mounting pressure from both his advisors and the public. Military leaders argued that diplomacy had failed and urged immediate action. We can't sit here while they tear our planet apart, Ryan Mitchell stated during an emergency meeting. If we strike now, we might be able to cripple their fleet before they regroup. Dr. Emily Ross, however, remained steadfast in her belief that communication was key. Attacking them will only confirm their worst fears about us, she countered. We need more time to negotiate with Kale. He's shown he wants peace. If we give him a chance, he might be able to control his own people. President Adams listened carefully but ultimately sided with caution. We'll prepare for war, but we won't start it. Captain Hayes, I want you and Dr. Ross to return to the mothership and demand answers. Find out why these attacks are happening and who's behind them. Meanwhile, aboard the alien vessel, Commander Kyle struggled to maintain order. General Vren's influence was growing, and whispers of rebellion spread through the crew. When Kale confronted him, Vren didn't bother hiding his contempt. You're weak, Kale. Your obsession with these primitives has blinded you to reality. Our people are dying. Every moment we waste is another step closer to extinction. Kale's voice was firm but weary. I understand the urgency, but destroying another species won't save us. It will only condemn us, Vren sneered. Then perhaps it's time someone stronger takes charge. As tensions escalated, Lyra approached Kyle privately. Her antennae twitched nervously as she spoke. Commander, Vren is planning something. I've overheard conversations. Talk of mutiny. If we don't act soon, he'll try to seize control. Kyle clenched his jaw. And if I move against him, it could fracture the fleet. We'd lose cohesion at a time when we need unity most. Lyra hesitated before speaking again. What if we reached out to the humans? They might help us stop him. Kyle considered the idea. It was risky. Trusting an unknown species could backfire, but he saw no other option. Prepare a message for Dr. Ross. Tell her we need their assistance, but make sure it's clear. This is not an alliance. It's a temporary measure. Back on Earth, Daniel Carter continued caring for Zix, the injured alien hiding near his home. The creature's condition had improved significantly, allowing it to move with greater ease. One evening, as Daniel brought food and water, Zix made a series of clicking sounds and gestured toward the sky. Though Daniel couldn't understand the exact meaning, he sensed urgency in its movements. Before he could respond, a loud explosion echoed in the distance. Flames lit up the horizon, and thick plumes of smoke rose into the air. Panic gripped Daniel as he realized the source. A nearby town was under attack by one of the rogue alien units. Without hesitation, he grabbed Zix and led it deeper into the woods away from danger. News of the attack spread quickly, triggering global outrage. Protesters flooded the streets demanding justice. In response, Ryan Mitchell implemented a risky plan. Using technology recovered from downed alien ships, he created a defense network around major cities. The system consisted of energy shields designed to deflect alien weapons. While effective, it required immense power and risked draining local resources. When Dr. Ross and Captain Hayes returned to the mothership, they were met with grim news. Kyle explained the situation with Vren and pleaded for humanity's help. If Vren succeeds, all hope of peaceful resolution will vanish. I ask not for your trust, but for your cooperation. For the sake of both our peoples. Dr. Ross exchanged a glance with Hayes before responding. We'll relay your request to our leaders, but time is short. You must act quickly. As negotiations continued, events on Earth spiraled further out of control. Laura Carter, watching the chaos unfold on TV, grew increasingly anxious. She confronted Daniel later that night. What are you doing with that thing? She demanded, pointing at Zix, who rested quietly in the corner. It's one of them. How do you know it's not dangerous? Daniel sighed. Because it saved my life once, and because it's scared just like we are. Laura shook her head. I don't care, this isn't right. What if someone finds out? What if they come looking for it? Her words struck a nerve. Daniel knew she was right. The longer Zix stayed with them, the greater the risk. Yet he couldn't bring himself to turn it away. On the mothership, Kale prepared for the inevitable confrontation with Vren. With Dr. Ross and Hayes' support, he devised a plan to expose Vren's treachery to the rest of the crew. Using intercepted communications, they gathered evidence of his plans to seize control and resume full-scale resource extraction. The challenge lay in presenting this information without sparking outright rebellion. As preparations unfolded, Zix played a crucial role. Through gestures and clicks, it conveyed critical details about Vren's strategy to Daniel, who passed the information along to Dr. Ross. This unexpected collaboration strengthened the fragile bond between humans and aliens, proving that cooperation was possible, even in the face of overwhelming odds. The final showdown loomed closer with each passing hour. On Earth, skies darkened as alien ships shifted position, seemingly preparing for battle. Cities braced for impact, their newly installed defense networks glowing faintly beneath the surface. Humanity stood united yet divided, unsure whether to fight or trust. Aboard the mothership, Kale addressed his crew, revealing Vren's betrayal and urging them to stand together. Our survival depends not on conquest, but on finding solutions that honor who we are. Will we choose destruction or redemption? His words resonated with many, though some remained loyal to Vren. As factions formed, the stage was set for a climactic struggle, one that would determine not only the fate of Earth but also the future of two species bound by desperation and hope. End of document. Document. Part 5. The final confrontation began with a deafening roar. On Earth, alien ships descended once more, their energy beams cutting through the atmosphere like knives. Cities lit up with blinding flashes as humanity's newly installed defense networks activated, deflecting attacks and buying precious time. The air was thick with smoke and fear, but amidst the chaos, people fought back, not just with weapons, but with determination. Aboard the mothership, Commander Kale faced his own battle. General Vren had launched a coup, rallying loyalists to seize control of the bridge. Claws clashed and bodies tumbled as crew members chose sides. Kyle fought fiercely, his movements calculated despite the overwhelming odds. Lyra stood by him, her smaller frame no less formidable as she fended off attackers. Together they pushed toward the command console, knowing that regaining control of the fleet was their only chance to stop the destruction below. Meanwhile, Dr. Emily Ross and Captain Lucas Hayes worked frantically to assist Kale. Using information provided by Zix and Daniel Carter, they pinpointed Vren's weaknesses, his reliance on brute force and lack of strategic foresight. Armed with this knowledge, they helped Kale broadcast a message to the entire fleet, exposing Vren's treachery and urging others to stand down. "This isn't about power," Kale declared over the ship's intercom. "It's about survival, for all of us." The message reached ears across the fleet, sowing doubt among Vren's supporters. Some hesitated, lowering their weapons as they reconsidered their allegiance. Others continued fighting, unwilling to abandon their leader. The clash intensified, filling the mothership with shouts and the metallic clang of combat. On Earth, Daniel Carter watched the skies anxiously from the safety of his basement. Zix huddled beside him, its large eyes reflecting both fear and resolve. Outside, explosions rattled the ground, shaking the house to its foundation. Laura clutched Emma tightly, whispering reassurances even as tears streamed down her face. "We have to get out of here," she pleaded. "If they find us—" Daniel shook his head firmly. "We can't leave Zix behind. Not now." Before she could argue further, a loud crash echoed nearby. A rogue alien patrol had landed just outside their neighborhood, searching for survivors, or perhaps for Zix. Daniel grabbed a flashlight and peered cautiously through the window. Shadows moved in the darkness, accompanied by low, mechanical, whirring sounds. He turned to Zix. "You need to hide. Stay quiet." Zix nodded slowly, understanding the urgency. It slipped into a narrow crawl space beneath the stairs, disappearing from view just as the front door burst open. Aliens stormed inside, their insect-like forms towering over Daniel and his family. One of them pointed a weapon at Daniel, emitting sharp clicks that sounded like questions. Daniel raised his hand slowly, trying to appear non-threatening. "I don't know where it is," he said, though he knew they wouldn't understand. Back aboard the mothership, Kyle finally cornered Vren near the main reactor chamber. The general snarled, raising his weapon, but Kyle disarmed him with a swift strike. "It's over, Vren," he growled. "Your actions have endangered us all." Vren spat defiantly. "And what will you do instead? Beg these primitives for scraps?" "No," Kyle replied coldly. "I'll work with them to find a better way, something you'll never understand." With Vren subdued, Kyle regained control of the fleet. He immediately ordered all units to cease fire and withdraw from Earth's surface. The message spread quickly, halting the attacks mid-strike. Below, humans paused in disbelief as the alien ships pulled back, retreating into the sky like specters, vanishing at dawn. In Washington, D.C., President Adams received confirmation of the ceasefire. Though relieved, he remained cautious. "This doesn't mean it's over," he told his advisors. "We need guarantees, something tangible to ensure this won't happen again." Dr. Ross and Captain Hayes returned to Earth with Kale's proposal, a temporary alliance to repair the damage caused by the invasion. In exchange, humanity would share certain non-lethal technologies, helping the aliens stabilize their homeworld without resorting to violence. It was a risky offer, but one born of necessity. After days of intense negotiations, an agreement was reached. Kale vowed to take full responsibility for his people's actions, promising to oversee restoration efforts personally. "We came seeking salvation," he told Dr. Ross during their final meeting. "But we found something far greater, a reminder of who we are and what we must strive to become." As the alien fleet prepared to depart, Daniel Carter stood in his backyard, watching the massive ships ascend into the clouds. Zix emerged from hiding, standing beside him for one last moment. Its glowing eyes conveyed gratitude and sadness. Without a sound, it turned and walked toward the edge of the woods, disappearing into the shadows. Laura joined Daniel, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Do you think we'll ever see them again?" He sighed, staring at the empty sky. "Maybe. But if we do, I hope it's because we've learned to trust each other." Across the globe, cities began the long process of rebuilding. The scars of the invasion ran deep, but so did the lessons learned. Humanity had faced extinction and emerged, stronger, not through conquest but through cooperation. And as life slowly returned to normal, people looked to the stars with newfound curiosity and caution, aware that they were no longer alone in the universe. Kyle stood on the bridge of his flagship, gazing at Earth one last time before giving the order to leave. His heart was heavy with guilt but also filled with hope. For the first time in years, he felt a sense of purpose, not just for himself, but for his people. They had made mistakes, yes, but they had also taken the first step toward redemption. As the fleet vanished into the vastness of space, the world below breathed a collective sigh of relief. The crisis had passed, but its impact would linger forever. Humanity and the aliens had collided in ways neither could have predicted, forging a fragile bond built on mutual understanding and sacrifice. Whether that bond would endure remained uncertain, but for now it was enough. End of document.